I'm going to do an overview of the past couple of releases that Daz Trader has done and kind of explain what these changes mean. This is a new type of video for me, so if you guys find this type of information useful, just let me know in the comments. I can make more of these as Daz releases updates. I do spend a lot of my time with Daz reviewing these release notes and then spending a lot of time testing them inside of replay mode. I am in the process of upgrading my Daz Trader from version 7 or 5.7.9.3, which was released on April 15th, into the latest version. And I think whenever you want to upgrade versions of Daz, like for me, it's very dangerous. I am using a lot of sort of advanced features and experimental features, and I have a lot of logic coded into my hotkeys that Daz doesn't even have documentation about, and so they will make small changes on their side that isn't advertised anywhere or anything. So I just have to very thoroughly test my hotkeys to make sure they're working properly whenever I'm doing an upgrade. So I'm just going to step through what I kind of look for whenever I'm reading through release notes. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. So yeah, let's just get started. So the very first thing that you need to do whenever you are going to upgrade a version is you first need to identify what version that you are on. Again, for me, I'm on 5.7.9.0, and you just kind of want to go up the chain and read the release notes. So for CMD API, I don't use this API. I'm sure many of you don't as well, so I'm just going to skip all these, but definitely read them if you do use it. Next is the hotkey, advanced hotkey. So these are all going to be for the version 5.7.9.7, which is the beta release. For global functions, execute and ExecHotkey are not global now. They will be functions of each object. So I'm not actually sure what this means. This is actually a pretty big change because they were global functions before. I've tested this on my local and they're still working as global functions. So maybe there's more to come on this one, or maybe you have to create an object that you're going to instantiate first before you are able to call them. Really not sure. I have reached out to Daz on this one, so more to come on this one. Next is added function ShowObject to ShowObject properties. So this is something that I've been asking Daz for, and we don't really have a way to view the attributes. If you do like a message box on it, it just will show like 0. It won't show you what are the attributes of an actual object. So I think this ShowObject is supposed to show you all the data in it, but as you can see, it doesn't really show you anything. So more to come on this one as well. AccountObj, same thing. These things, I feel like many of these, maybe they're just in beta or something, but they're just not like working really. So more to come on this one as well. But I think this is just going to show you details about your account in an object form. The next one is GetUserObj. So this one is not really clear to me at the moment. The hotkey that they actually use in their script builder is actually new user object. And in the example, they're describing, or they have a GetUserObj, but I think that you actually have to create, so instantiate a new object first using the new user object. And then once you do that, you can get the user object. It's not really working for me at the moment, so more to come on this one as well. I'm going to make an entire video explaining the reason for new user objects and how you will use them, so much more on this one later. Next is added a user defined property data to QuoteObj. So I believe what this allows you to do is use the QuoteObj method, and then you're able to add your own attributes within that QuoteObj. So a QuoteObj, you can say like quote spy, and it will give you information about spy. And then within data property, you're able to add your own sort of notes to that property. I believe that's how it's going to use. I am asking for clarification from Daz on this. The next group of changes are for short locates. So added hotkey script availability query, same button as availability query. And what this allows you to do is just check how many shares that you have. So this is the hotkey availability query. And you can see if I go to Des, you can see that they have availability query button. And when you click that, it tells you how many shares you currently have available to short. The rest of the changes are mostly bug fixes, so I'm not going to cover them. But the next one I will cover is draw horizontal line with price, adding a parameter of a color. So this one allows you to change the color as you draw the price, which is helpful. Previously in my ATR script, I am first changing the color with a different hotkey and then drawing the lines. So this basically allows you to not have to change the colors across your global hotkey configuration. Rather, just you can add the color as you draw it for a specific reason. Those are all the changes in this build. Again, I will be doing a detailed video about GetUserObj and creating this object because this is by far the biggest update and it changes a lot on how we can interact within objects within DAS. So I'll be doing an entire video over this one. Finally, we have a new version on July 4th, which is interesting. It's a holiday, but it's also a beta version, build version 5.7.9.8. This was a much smaller update, but I think there's a couple of notable things I will cover. First thing is they increased the limit size of the script length. And so previously, I think this was set to like, I don't know, 700 characters. And if you went over the 700 characters, your script would just fail and it would throw an error. Then they increased it to, I think, 2,000. And so that gave you much ability to write, much longer scripts. And now they just said that they did even longer. So it's not telling you what it is. But this is very important because as we continue to add like method chaining, so one method calls another, which calls another, that's considered as one script to DAS. So they combine everything together. And so as we continue to write a lot of logic, our scripts are going to continue to get longer and longer. And so having a much larger script size is very valuable. The next is GetTrendLine name by name function. So this one is going to be very interesting. I haven't played around with it yet, but what this is going to allow you to do is as you go and create these trend lines, you can assign object properties to them. So for instance, you could say this is resistance 1, this one is resistance 2, this one is resistance 3 in terms of lines. And then you can assign attributes to these lines so that you could say like this is a daily breakout or some sort of whatever you want to add important pieces of data about the trend line. So it's like metadata on the trend line. And then you're able to get the trend line when it hits. So if price hits a certain level, you could theoretically fetch that trend line and then pull those data pieces that you set. So if this is an S3 or like a resistance 3, it may have more impact than a resistance 2. And so maybe you want to change, maybe add more risk or less risk based upon the data that you've set within those trend lines. So I think this is sort of the beginning of allowing us to, dynamically assess as price comes into levels and then write our logic against those trends that have been triggered. So that is it for all the updates. We are currently waiting for the Schwab update. It's in pre-public stage still. And so I'm waiting for that new release to be sent. I know that they are working on, a new version right now. And of course, all of these changes are currently in beta, so they have not done a public release of them. And they will eventually do a public release that has all these new features in there. So feel free to wait for that public release. If you have any questions about any of these changes or you want me to go more in depth or expand on any of these changes, Just let me know. And let me know in the comments if you found this video useful, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.